Welcome, everyone, to Tuesday Night Luke Live Online 2021. And tonight it is session number 21. And I'm Father James DeLucio with the Paulist Fathers here in the library of the Paulist Fathers Rectory in Manhattan. And today's selection is Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11. So without further ado, let us engage with Jesus, the apostles, and the church with Luke chapter 6, verse 1 through 11. While Jesus was going through a field of grain on a Sabbath, his disciples were plucking the heads of grain, rubbing them through their hands, and eating them. Some Pharisees said, "Why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" Jesus said to them in reply, "Have you not read what David did when he and those who were with him were hungry? How he entered the house of God, took the bread of offering, which lawfully only the priests may eat, and he ate it and shared it with his companions. Then he said to them, 'The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath.' On another Sabbath, he entered a synagogue and taught. The scribes and the Pharisees watched him closely to see if he would cure on the Sabbath, so that they might discover a reason to accuse him. He realized their intentions and said to the man with a withered hand, 'Come up and stand before us.' The man rose and stood there. Then he said to them, 'I ask you, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath rather than to do evil, to save life rather than to destroy it?' Looking around at them all, he said to the man, 'Put out your hand.' He did so, and his hand was restored. And they became enraged and discussed together what they might do to Jesus. The Gospel of the Lord. Well, here we have some very interesting lessons and some things for us to meditate. Life, in both stories, life is more important than ritual. Life is more important than being so attentive to the law that you don't see the forest for the trees. You don't see the bigger picture of a kingdom. Hunger takes precedence over propriety. And they were clearly enjoying their walk through the field. It happened to be a Sabbath. Obviously they hadn't eaten, and so they wanted a little snack. So the disciples plucked the grain. I kind of love that image, rubbing it through their hands. You're thinking like little pieces of wheat, like little nuts, little kernels. Tasty. Why should they deprive themselves? Jesus is in their presence. We also have those other passages we had the other day when Jesus says, you can't make the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is still with them. And in a real way, Jesus remains with us. So we have to recognize that there's rules and there's traditions, and they help solidify us as a people and can focus us on our life with Christ and our faith. At the same time, they're means to an end. And the end is a sense of joy in God's presence, no matter what day it is, no matter what is happening. This is very helpful to remember, especially in Lent, if we're getting very scrupulous. Oh, darn, I had that second meal, or oh no, it was a fasting day, I'm not supposed to have a snack. Or, I think there was ham in that split pea soup that I had on Friday. Well, again, it's a discipline. It's to help us recognize the need for God, our dependence on God, to help have solidarity with people who have only meals that are insufficient, So you have to eat they have to eat what's placed before them. They may not be able to afford the piety of meat. If someone offers them a hamburger on the street, for example, like so many we have here on the street in New York, and they're hungry and Catholic, eat the hamburger, right? The same thing, and then it's in their own tradition too. Jesus is saying, you forget, you're holding on so tight to these traditions, but know your story, know the in between the lines, and even what's on the lines in the story of David and his companions. The second aspect is why are they so fussy? Why are they so mean that they don't want to see someone cured on the Sabbath? Well, the important point here that the scholars tell us is actually the fact that the man was cured. They're not angry that the man was cured. Sounds like it though, but they're not that petty. What's really going on in terms of Sabbath observance, Sabbath is to be about God, is to be focusing on God. And they're lumping Jesus in with all the other faith healers that were quite prominent at that time throughout the land of the Jewish people. And so most of those faith healers were kind of, I wouldn't say they were all charlatans and quacks, and some of them were authentic healers. Even to this day, some people have a very healing touch and an ability to, with intense prayer, bring some peace or relief to people who suffer. With that acknowledged, though, in those times, and perhaps even today, these people try to draw a lot of attention to themselves. It's their livelihood. They want to cultivate a kind of celebrity cult. They want to be known. They want to be expected from one town to the next. And so if there is healing that occurs, whether real or dramatized, it's not about the person who is healed or the actor who's pretending to be healed. It's all about the healer bringing attention to himself or herself. That's really what the religious leaders are objecting to. They're thinking Jesus is just like one of those, and he's saying, look, you're trying to draw attention to yourself. Heal on some other day. Today is the day to focus on God. They miss the point, as many of the disciples do, that Jesus' healings are not about him. They're not about how wonderful he is. Remember, at the temptations with the devil, Jesus says, I don't want power and glory. That is not what I want. I have become a human being to show how human beings like you and like me can be instruments of the Holy Spirit, instruments of God's healing power, which is yet another expression of God's love. Jesus' healings are all about bringing attention to God. They're all about thanksgiving. The person who is healed is also joined into a community. He can come back. He's not ostracized. He's not off in the corner. The extreme, of course, was the lepers. But everyone is returned to a better footing, good standing with their community. This is the kingdom. This is about God. This is why Jesus is healing. He wants us to understand the many different aspects of healing, and it's all part of God's love. So they missed the boat. Sometimes we do as well, to recognize that the heart of Jesus is the assurance that God is with us in everything, in joy, in our snacking. One day I'll tell you about the origin of the pretzel, which has a spiritual underpinning, if you will. So God is with us in our snacking, in our being together, and in every and any way we're healed. It's all about the glory of God. This is what Jesus reveals. And lastly, let's not fall into the temptation of saying, well, it was this old religion or that. This is a trap still of every religion, to get caught up in the externals and the rituals and not the purpose for which they are given, which is love of God, love of self as God's creation, and love of neighbors or all others as ourselves. Thank you for joining me. Have a great week. Join me Friday night for Young at Heart for part 3 of The Tinderbox by Hans Christian Andersen on Facebook and YouTube. God bless everyone. Good night.